And yep, I am indeed still alive. And even though it's very, very, very belated, here is my recipe video about the Greek goddess of love and beauty, Aphrodite. In case no one even remembers what this is all about, last year I started a little recipe video series where I'm baking something inspired by the Greek gods and goddesses. Welcome back! So I'd say Aphrodite is probably one of the most known Greek goddesses out there, and she is associated with incredible beauty, love, passion, sexuality, and pleasure. Her Roman counterpart is Venus, born from the sea foam. I bet we all know Sandro Botticelli's famous painting of the goddess emerging from a seashell in full form. However, like most of the times when it comes to mythology, there's more than one story of Aphrodite's birth. So while some believed the born from the sea foam story, some also said that she was another daughter of Zeus. In Greek mythology, Aphrodite was married to Hephaestus, the god of fire, blacksmiths, and metalworking. But it was suggested that she wasn't quite satisfied in that relationship, so she was believed to be unfaithful to him by having many lovers on the side. Some stories even told that she had an affair with Ares, the god of war, and within this union, these two were also believed to be the parents of the god Eros, or you might also know him as Cupid. Aphrodite was also believed to casually having caused the Trojan War by winning the golden apple for the most beautiful goddess over Hera and Athena. But that's another story. Being associated with the sea, love and beauty, Aphrodite's symbols included seashells, swans, geese, ducks, apples and pomegranates, as well as roses and myrtle flowers, which were sacred to her. She was also widely featured in numerous artworks, from paintings to sculptures to literature, and humans throughout history seem to have always been fascinated by her. So for Aphrodite's cake, I knew I wanted to make something juicy, something rich and decadent, creamy and fruity. I wanted crispy and soft elements and intense and sweet flavors. So I pretty much wanted all the flavors and textures combined. For this, I also was partly inspired by the beliefs that Aphrodite was able to have different appearances, depending on the beauty ideal of the person she would appear to. So I think her cake should have something for everybody as well. Being the goddess of beauty, I of course also want this cake to be extra pretty. But because she is also the goddess of love, I didn't just want to make a super aesthetic cake, but rather something that would be cozy and also kinda comfort foody to portray the caring and emotional and warm characteristics of love itself. So because of all this, I decided on a dessert I, and especially my mom, love to eat at the restaurant of a Greek school friend of my dad's, Galaktoboureko. Galaktoboureko is basically some sort of semolina cream milk dessert, which is wrapped in a crispy and syrup-soaked filo dough. It's divine, and therefore perfect for Aphrodite. Because of the goddess's connection to roses and apples, I also plan to decorate this cake with some filo dough apple roses, and soak the whole thing in rose-flavored syrup as well. A little, or rather a lot of gold glitter to top it all off in the end, and here we are. These were my ideas for Aphrodite. Now let's get to the recipe part. I started by making the semolina cream filling, and for that I brought some plant milk to a simmer along with vanilla, cinnamon and a pinch of salt. You don't want to boil this, just heat it up gently until it reaches just that simmering point before boiling. Then I'm also adding some fresh orange juice and, while stirring constantly, the semolina as well as some maple syrup. Mix that well so that no clumps are left, and then stir in a little cornstarch water mix as well. Now cook everything for another minute or so and remove from the heat. I also stirred in a tablespoon of almond butter for extra richness and then set it aside to cool. Also, taste test to see if you need to adjust the spices or sweetness if you'd like. Next up are the fruits, so I first partly peeled a gorgeous looking red apple because I wanted to see if I could use the peel for coloring the syrup later, and then continued to just chop everything into small pieces. Then heat up some coconut oil or vegan butter in a pan together with the chopped up apple and pear and saute everything for a few minutes. Add some walnuts, maple syrup, cinnamon, and optional lemon or orange juice as well, and keep sauteing until soft and fragrant. I also added some berry jam because I thought it might make everything a little bit pinkish in color, but it didn't, so you can leave this one out. For the syrup, I simply combined some water, rice syrup and sugar in a small pot, added some orange zest as well as my previously saved red apple peel, and this rose flavored tea to get that slightly pinkish color and also some rose flavor into the syrup. Then just boil everything until it thickens into a rather thin, liquidy syrup consistency and remove the tea bag and apple peel. Now, for the apple roses, you want to cut your apple into very thin slices and soak them in some hot lemon water for a few minutes until soft and flexible. Then set aside until ready to use. In the meantime, you can assemble your Galaktoboureko base, so preheat your oven to 180 degrees. I use these store-bought phyllo pastry sheets, which are, at least in German stores, accidentally vegan most of the times. Prepare a bigger cake tin or even deep baking dish and then layer sheet by sheet of the phyllo dough into the tin, while generously brushing everything with olive oil in between. Trust me, this dessert is probably 50% olive oil to be honest, so really don't be shy with brushing every single layer of phyllo in between. So for the base layer I used about 10 sheets of phyllo and then added my apple and pear filling as well as the semolina cream filling. I then folded over the edges of the phyllo, brushed it with oil again and covered everything with 3 more layers of phyllo. The last remaining sheet though I saved for the apple roses, for which you want to cut it into thin stripes, brush with oil again, layer on your soft apple slices like this, and then fold and roll it up into a rose. This can be quite tricky at first, but as long as your apple slices are flexible and you're working quickly and your dough hasn't dried out from the air yet, it should work just fine, and it really doesn't need to be perfect either. I then arranged the roses on top of the Galaktoboureko, added some more walnuts, and again brushed everything with olive oil, and this time also with a little bit of maple syrup. Then bake everything for 30 to 40 minutes and chop up some more pistachios for decoration. Once your Galaktoboureko is looking beautifully golden brown like this, take it out of the oven and pour over the syrup while the cake is still warm. I then added the pistachios, the obligatory gold glitter of course, and then you just have to let it set and absorb all the syrup for about 1 to 2 hours. And here it finally is, my golden apple rose Galaktoboureko for the goddess of love and beauty, Aphrodite. really adore how it's rich, decadent, and super sweet on one hand, while also being cozy, creamy, and kind of traditional on the other. I think that like that it conveys not only the aesthetics of beauty for me, with the roses and everything, but also portrays love in an emotional kind of way. Eating this super creamy dessert really is like a lovely hug, you guys. And the crunch of the phyllo crust, y'all, that's love right there, let me tell you. And yep, so that's that from me right here. Of course, I also included another little behind the scenes taste test at the end, and I really hoped you liked this video, even though it was more than late. So yeah, bye and happy day of love in whatever way that might be for you. See ya!